What up, guys? It's Eric from the MMG. I have Brad and Will with me tonight.
Hey.
Make it so.
We are going to review episode 5 of Star Trek Lower Decks Cupid's Errant Arrow. Let's get started out with, where the episode starts out. So we have the crew meeting up with another ship who is apparently very technologically advanced compared to them, even though I kind of got the impression that they really weren't. So I didn't really know what was going on with that. Did you guys think it was a better ship, or was there just some kind of a weird, chauvinistic feature going on there from the captain and the first officer?
Oh, I picked up that it was a better ship. I mean, it's a Parliament class ship. I don't remember what the name of the ship was. Was it Toronto or something like that?
Lincoln?
No, it wasn't the Lincoln. Anyway, it was a Parliament class ship. They had like the latest and greatest tricorders. They had,
T-88.
Yeah, the T-88. And then that's why, everybody was kind of geeking out over what they were going to see on this ship. And even as the captain of Cerritos is walking onto the ship, the other captain's like this, you play your cards right, and someday you'll get a technologically advanced ship like this. And it's got, the best warp core. And, so I got the impression that this was like, not a flagship like the Enterprise, but was more like would be more on the spectrum similar to Discovery, but not quite as like Black Ops as Discovery. So more engineering and more technical.
The USS Vancouver was the name of it.
Oh, see, I knew I was in Canada.
So when Captain Freeman and the captain of the Vancouver were chatting, though, she was very arrogant about it, and the look that Captain Freeman was giving her first officer, like kind of rolling her eyes, like, this guy's full of it. That's kind of what made me think that maybe it wasn't that advanced, except for the whole part with the, like you said, the tricorder, the T-88. I looked it up because I thought that was the model of the android from what's it called?
Star Wars?
Terminator.
Oh, no, that's T-1000, and Star Wars is IG-88.
I thought there was a whole bunch of them, though, so I thought maybe there was a T-88, and so I looked it up, but there wasn't, unfortunately. Wouldn't that have been a smooth little slide in there? No, nothing? Okay. All right, let's move on. So let's move on.
I wonder why they did call it the T-88, though.
I couldn't find anything related to it. I looked briefly, so couldn't come up with anything. So the other part, the main part of this episode actually, is Boimler has a girlfriend. She appears to be all that, and Mariner doesn't believe it at first, but quickly realizes that, hey, she's a real thing. But she starts to suspect that she's either first she thinks she's a hologram, then she thinks she's like a cyborg or an android, and then we go through several other accusations that she's not a real human. I'll be honest, I thought it was a little weird how obsessed Mariner was with this, but I liked a lot of the things that she did to try to prove that she wasn't real. What did you guys think of this whole part of the episode?
I thought it just added to the humor of the episode. I mean, towards the end of the episode, there's it seems like it's a little bit nuanced to why she's acting this way. I think you kind of pick up on some of the underlying tones of why she's acting so obsessed with proving that she doesn't like Boimler, why she's an alien. I think that ultimately Mariner has feelings for Boimler.
You think?
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Wow.
I mean, I think that I think that she I don't know. I don't think she's into him that way.
I think so, because I mean that's how they bonded at the end.
Yeah.
And then she's like, he's my dork. I think that's what we're leading towards, as this show progresses. I think that she just seems like she has more and more feelings for him for whatever reason.
Okay. Wow, you could be right.
What do you guys think about the callback of Mariner recalling back on her past ship when she was setting in Deep Space Nine, which I thought was a nice little touch in, and having that conversation with that other couple, and she mentions that he must be a shapeshifter, some alien shapeshifter, because he's so perfect, and then he morphs into the shapeshifter or whatever she said, and ends up killing the girlfriend, and Mariner's reliving that memory in her head. So I think that kind of drove her a little bit, thinking that this was happening all over again. But I did like, I like that we got a Deep Space Nine reference, and we got to see a little bit more about her backstory.
Yeah, so that may be I was going to reference that was the reason why she reacted the way she did. I think maybe she just wasn't going to let that to happen to a friend again. I mean, she kind of acts like she's been through a lot of things, and that could just be one of the things that kind of triggers her. So I guess I wasn't so bothered by that, really. Bothered by, or not bothered. I wasn't so like into the fact that she was into Boimer that way because she had watched another good friend die in a similar scenario, and that's why she was kind of triggered by this. I thought it was, I don't know. I mean, it definitely crossed a lot of different things. On a lot. I'm gonna try to stop saying a lot of different. There was plenty of examples across all of the different franchise, all the different shows in the franchise where similar stories would have taken place. I'm surprised with everything they've done from Next Generation that they didn't call it like that energy that Beverly Crusher got stuck into. You know, remember when she went back to her grandma's house and that was the candle. You guys, you know what I'm talking about? Like that was one of them that they did.
Oh man, yeah.
Reference in this one. So,
I mean, they even referenced the salt succubus.
yep.
That's an original series thing, you know. The Romulan spy I thought was a good touch as well. Or the sexy people in rompers. I mean, that's the one where Wesley Crusher gets falls into the flowers.
Yep.
I do like the references. I mean, sometimes I feel like they're a little bit overboard, but
you know what? In this one, so we're not quite there yet in the episode, but just so I remember to say it, the reference in this one where she says that what's his name? It's not The Rock. The really popular guy in this episode?
The former boyfriend of Barb.
Yeah, but what's the guy that she bonds with from the Cerritos? The coolest guy on the ship.
What was his name? It was her former boyfriend. I can't think of his name either.
Yeah. Anyway, she goes, he's a cross between Shatner and Trip Tucker or something like that. I chuckled at that one.
Yeah, a Sunday or something like that was what they said. I thought that was funny too. The two most sexualized male Star Trek figures.
Oh, come on. The two most sexual, you're forgetting Riker completely in that statement, but
I'll
forget that.
I don't think Riker's as sexualized.
What?
He's like the most sexualized character in the Next Generation.
More than Kirk and Trip. I would say Riker's probably third, but
no, Riker is maybe second, and probably is up there competing with Shatner.
Well, Riker gets a reference here. I was going to ask you guys if that meant anything to you. When the captain, or no, it wasn't the captain, it was the second in command, I think, of the Vancouver, is trying to talk Tendi and Rutherford into joining or transferring ships, and Tendi's trying to hack the pad. The password's Riker. Was that related to anything other than obviously being Riker? Is there an episode where something else's password was named Riker that I missed?
I don't think so.
I wonder if they were just trying to reference Riker that we would all know.
Yeah, that seems just like a name drop to me.
Okay, I didn't know if I had missed something there.
The ex-boyfriend's name was Jet, by the way.
Jet. Dang it. Okay.
So we got that whole. Let's move on. Well, let's finish up about this little section here. So it ends up, they end up fighting Barb and Mariner, and they end up becoming best friends as they tell silly stories about Boimer. Gosh, I was going to have this whole conversation with you, Brad, about if you are a
Bradward.
a Bradward or a Bradley or so. Yeah, so Boimer, they end up telling silly stories about the goofy things he's done, and they become best friends. And Mariner ends up scanning Barb and no parasite. But then when the tricorder shifts over towards Boimer, they detect a parasite, and it's one of the little sucking parasites that go on the back of your head. Now, I think in the Next Generation episode that I relate this to the most, they went and they crawled inside their ear, didn't they? The one where they take over Starfleet.
They crawled into their mouth. And
in their mouths, yeah.
Season 1. The ear one is Wrath of Khan.
Okay, and then you got the one from Voyager, which is like a giant parasite, though, that like attached to what, Chakotay or something like that.
That was,
or who was that? Attached to one of them.
It was B'Elanna that it attached to.
Oh, B'Elanna, that's right.
And that, but then you also got the other episode of Deep Space Nine where they were stuck in, or not Deep Space Nine, Next Generation, where they had the leeches that were stuck all over everybody's body, but they were in subspace.
So yeah, we've seen a lot of these parasites of different forms. This one looked like I said, the most it reminded me of was the one from the original series that crawled into people's. I was thinking it was ears, but you said it was their mouth, and you're right. And they blew that one guy's head off. That was awesome. I remember we talked quite a bit about that when we watched that episode.
Like the goriest episode.
Yep. So anyways, that wraps that up, and the parasite ends up making the first. I was a little confused by this. I didn't know they ever really said that it was only the first person you interacted with. It seemed to me like it should have been everybody he interacted with, but it seemed to only be Barb, who was the first person he interacted with, ends up being attracted to his pheromones that he's releasing. And so that's why they've had this attraction to each other, or it's why Barb's had this attraction to Boimer.
But I mean, they haven't even seen each other for over a month. They talked about being a long distance relationship. How did that work?
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird.
I don't really chalk this one up to it being a cartoon.
Yeah, it's a little weird there with that whole explanation, but it's fine. It is what it is. So let's move on to the next part here. We get the two nerdiest. It's safe to say this, right? The two nerdiest members of the crew, Rutherford, and I have a hard time saying that. This is kind of a weird name to pronounce for me. And Tendi, who fall in love with this Vancouver science ship, and they're going over to help, and the second in command there, says, "Hey, check out these new 288s. If you guys, whoever finishes these jobs first, will get to take one home." And so they end up like competing against each other. It's kind of a weird little short, to be honest. And then they end up, we already briefly talked about this. He ends up trying to get them onto the ship because he wants to trade places with them, because he wants off the ship. He appears to not be able to handle the pressure. He ends up phasering Rutherford, and like twice, I think it was. Then he starts crying about it. I wasn't a huge fan of this whole plot. I didn't quite understand what was going on with him. I guess it was just the pressure. Is that what you guys got from that?
Yeah. And I'm over here chuckling because like this is one of the best episodes so far this season. I think. And so far you've thought every episode up until this point has been increasingly better. And like I'm over here going, I don't know, they kind of suck. But then this episode, I'm like, all right, I'm kind of digging this. And you're like, man, this episode kind of sucks. So I don't know. I'm kind of chuckling at that. But no, I got that he was just, that ship being like cutting edge and always out on the cool stuff. He's just tired of all of the excitement and wants to get back to doing humdrum, boring ship. And so, yeah, he's cracking under pressure.
That's what I gathered as well. Kind of just wanted to go back to the humdrum of everyday routine and not always be on the line. Doesn't want to always be in the spotlight anymore.
It's not that I didn't like this episode. I just didn't understand the whole plot. I feel like that was way too rushed. They could have kind of explained it a little bit more. I guess I'm looking for more of a plot, not just straight up, I
think the point was that, it's in the eye of the beholder as far as like what you want, what you think you want, and you don't actually know what you want until you have the opportunity to get what you think it is that you want and realize what you had was exactly what you wanted in the first place.
The other thing I want to mention is when they had that scene on Deep Space Nine where she's talking with her friends on her former ship. She references, the friend does, that Data's brother has joined with the Borg. And so if we look at that timeline, that makes her quite a bit older, right? I mean, we're going to go with that being current event, right?
That would have been First Contact.
So, I mean, I don't know. I was under the impression that Mariner was, we talked about this before. I said I thought she was older and more experienced, maybe an android herself or something like that. And this is supposed to take place in 2370, I think, right? Or 80. It's in between Nemesis and Picard. So those events would have been, I guess that would be about right then, wouldn't it? Because that movie was Nemesis. I would thought this is the reference from season 6 where Hugh is being or Lore is controlling the colony.
The uniforms. They were wearing uniforms from the era of First Contact.
The movies.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the third little plot we have with this episode is what the Captain Freeman and them, what the whole mission of the two ships are, and that is to stop a moon from, or actually to blow a moon up, I suppose, because it's about to go supernova. But you have the aliens fighting each other about which moon to blow up. I kind of missed that. So somebody explain to me what exactly was going on there. Was one of them about to go supernova, or do they just had to blow one up for some reason? I kind of missed what exactly was the whole cause behind it.
So I think the moon was falling apart and it was about to crash land into the planet. And that would cause repercussions of the people that were living on other planets, other moons. And they were basically trying to renegotiate. Everybody's wanting their own thing. And some were saying, hey, we live on this moon. If you blow up this moon, we're going to cause problems with us. And then, no, we need that moon, or we want this particular moon for ourselves, and kind of stuff. And ultimately the rich person at the end who was bickering and whining the most there was just him and his wife on the one planet that there was like radiation or whatever, that if they blew up the moon, then they were going to lose their home.
I need to watch it closer because I didn't understand if one moon was going to blow up anyways, then why didn't they just let it blow up?
Because
I didn't understand why they had to pick a moon.
The Moon 3, whatever the name of the planet was, the third moon was going to break up, and if it did, it was going to affect the tide patterns on the planet, and it was going to cause issues with something. There was another
gravity
species on the planet worshipped it as a deity. And then once they kind of figured out all those nuances, and the people those two people on Moon 4 were like, well, if you just Moon 3 blocks us from the rays of what's its thing, and another group said that they hail for Moon 5, and so basically it was a fiasco that they had to try to solve everybody's problems before blowing up, because if they blew up the third moon, then it was going to cause all those different things. And so the fight was whether or not they were not going to let it blow. They weren't going to implode it, because if they let it explode, then it was going to kill everybody. And so ultimately it was either kill everybody or kill, or blow up the moon.
So what's crazy that I find is, I mean, that would have been an episode of The Next Generation. You know what I mean? As far as like, oh, this is going to happen on the planet, and then something small would have happened to be able to cause where they couldn't even do anything, to blow up the moon, and then they saved the day at the end. You know what I mean? So obviously this was kind of like the side story, or the little side story that you get about, a tertiary character, which would have been a main part of an episode for like The Next Generation. And that's what I'm actually kind of enjoying about this.
I like that we've seen a completely different side. Like you said, we would see that a lot in The Next Generation, this kind of an episode. And, Freeman kept referencing, well, we'll come up with the solution, we're Starfleet, and the solution ended up being obvious once, she found out the whole deal that one moon only had, 2 people on it. They were rich and they lived there by themselves. I really like that part of the episode. But I watched it 2 or 3 times, and until we started talking about it, I never cared to know why they had to pick a moon. That's why I had to ask you guys, because I never paid that close attention to that part. Lots going on in a short 30-minute episode, and it's good. Any final thoughts on this one, guys?
Finally, an episode I can get behind. I'd give this one an 8.
Will, what'd you think?
The show is starting to grow on me a lot. I'm appreciating the humor a lot more as I'm watching it. It kind of makes me want to go back and watch the first couple episodes that I wasn't a big fan of. I'm getting more vested as this show continues on, and as long as they continue to develop the characters and develop relationships between the main characters, if you will, these lower deck characters, I think the show's even going to get better as long as we still stay with like an episodic type feel, but we have behind the scenes character development or overall character development over the series.
And score?
It's probably going to say an 8 on this one as well.
I was going to go with the same as last week. Not one of my favorite episodes, but still solid at a 7.5. I enjoyed it quite a bit. But again, I think they're going more for episodic Trek that we're used to and less away from the humor, and I'm there for the humor. That's why it's not up there with some of my other episodes. Overall, though, solid. Like I'm really enjoying the show quite a bit. All right, guys, thanks for checking out our podcast. Do us a favor, check out our website, maturemindedgamers.com. We do board games, video games, and much more. Have yourself a great night.